Is Undead Chronic too disrespectful? Now, let me preface this by saying I don't believe that Undead Chronic, he might not, he probably wouldn't even hear this, and this isn't to try to get him to change. I don't believe he would change because ultimately I believe at his core, his impetus and motivation for doing what he does on YouTube is out of profit. He's a profiteer. And I'm not necessarily framing that in a bad sense, per se. Okay. I have had my issues with, I've gone back and forth, in the manosphere, and particularly the red pill aspect of whether or not red pill guys should profit off of their content, uh, based upon the fact that, in my opinion, the red pill is simply just the truth, right? So should people get paid for telling the truth? I don't know, but at any rate, it's out there. At any rate, uh, the content is out there. At any rate, you know, YouTube is saturated and filled with red pill content. If someone gets paid for it, hey, cool. It's like there was a certain point, particularly when it came to like Donovan Sharp, that I had an issue, and I was like, man, you're selling this stuff. Why are you selling this stuff that should be free? I had an issue with that. Anyway, let's move past that. So, bottom line is, this critique, if you will, of Undead Chronic is not to try to get him to change. It's not to try to tear him down or anything like that. If he's making money off of it, cool, whatever. I'm not a big follower of Undead Chronic. I have followed him over the years, lightly in the sense that, um, I listen to his content every once in a while, but not that much. Because here's why: it's kind of toxic and negative, right? Now, one could argue that the red pill in itself is very critical, therefore negative. However, there's a thin line between being critical of something, using the truth, and then just straight up bashing human beings. Now, with that said, should modern women be called out? Yes. Yes, they should. However, there's a classy way to do things, and then there's just a terrible tearing down way of doing things. In my opinion, Undead Chronic is he practices the latter. He tears people down in a negative way, and it's toxic. And I believe he does it for shock value. I believe he does it for the profit. That's just my opinion. That's my assessment of him, which is fine. That's his whole deal. Whatever. However, I would have to say that there is such a thing as being classy, and there's such a thing as telling the truth about something that's hard to talk about, or critiquing something without, you know, really being toxic about it, right? If that makes sense, right? We can say, hey, you know what, this product is bad, it's faulty. I would advise other people to stay away from this product. Here's why, for this reason, this reason. That's just being classy and telling the truth. Then there's other people who come along and they're like, oh, this product is this, and they curse, and they just make themselves look bad in the process of tearing down this product, right? So that's kind of my assessment of Chronic, and there needs to be, I don't know what there needs to be, but it's, he's good friends with Hammerhand, and Hammerhand, I was listening to his content the other day too, and he really kind of, it's like he was saying a lot of good stuff, and I feel the same thing about Chronic, is that he says a lot of good stuff, and to some extent there's a, again, there's a fine line. There's a necessity for someone to come along and just be like, hey, you know what, this is bullshit, and call it out. Ribby the Party Frog is a little bit more classy. He's very similar to Chronic, but yet he doesn't get too deep into the anger. You can tell that there's a lot of anger behind Hammerhand and Chronic, and that is a problem because it makes us look bad, right? It makes those in the red pill community look bad, and we seem vitriolic, and we seem angry, we seem vengeful, we seem like we're unhinged, you know, and that's where that puts red pill truths into a bad light, because then we're all of a sudden we're associated with the shooters and these crazy guys, because when you have anger and you connotate anger onto your truth telling, and vitriol and complete utter disrespect and things like that, right? And it's not, yes, somebody who is doing wrong things in a way shouldn't be respected. However, what does it say about us if we're so unclassy and low, you know, and disregard the people who are doing the things that we're calling out to the extent that we don't even, it seems that we don't even care if they live or die. It seems that we don't even care if, it's like we want them to have horrible, and it's like, I get it, man. Women have hurt men a lot. Women screw men over. I get it. If you listen to my channel, I say that a lot. And karma's a thing. I think these women will have karma, but the sad part is, and I think even Undead Chronic understands this, the sad part is that these women should have been good wives, and they should have been good mothers, and they should have been good citizens in society, and because of their choices and habits, etc., they're probably going to be ruined by that. And they're going to ruin their chances of being a good mother or a good wife or a good member of society, right? That's the sad part. But I don't think that it's well, first of all, people are redeemable, right? People are redeemable. But to me, I look at it from it's a sad aspect. I don't look at it like, oh, this is just human trash and they should be thrown away, and they should, I'm a Christian. I believe in redemption, right? With that said, people, if you screw people over in a horrible way and in such a emotional, psychological way, as many women have done, there should be some karma. It's a horrible thing. It's a tough one because it's like they should also be mothers. They should be wives. I don't know if there's an answer for that, but I do know that putting them down so harshly that you yourself, it makes you look like you yourself are unhinged. It makes you look like you're toxic. Are you really that much better than them? Maybe, and so far as at least you're objectively idealizing some values, which he does. Objectively idealizes, morality and chastity and things like that, purity, which is fine, good, and I talk about those things and I uplift those things as well. However, if at the same time you're doing that, you're also saying, oh, her all zinc in you, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So not only are you, so on the one hand, you are putting down the very thing that, you're doing. You're putting down the very thing you're doing. So on the one hand, you're putting these women down for being sexual and sleeping around. On the other hand, you have no problem with pumping and dumping them. Well, that kind of makes you part of the problem. That kind of makes you a hypocrite. I get it. I get what you're saying. They're already doing it. I might as well do it. And I get exactly where he's coming from. And I'm not saying let me phrase this carefully. I'm not saying that in a way I disagree with that per se. That still might not be the right way to frame this. I do disagree with it. I think it's hypocritical. However, I understand where he's coming from. I understand where, in his mindset, he's a young guy. I think he's around 25. Okay. I understand in his mindset that, they're doing it anyway. I might as well get some, but yet still I don't respect these women. I've been there. I get it. I understand that mindset. And I'm not saying it's not true per se, because they're going to do it whether it's with you or somebody else. I get that as well. However, if on the one hand you're preaching purity and chastity, but you yourself are a proponent of their immorality, that makes you a straight up hypocrite. Sorry to say. So I don't know whether or not Undead Chronic gets laid or not. That's neither here nor there per se, but he claims that he does, which essentially, if that's true, it makes him a hypocrite. So on the one hand, you're saying women should be pure, but you don't have to be pure. Now, I know men and women are not equal. I know that better than anyone. I get it. Women have unlimited access. Men don't. I get all that. I understand that. Problem is that you're preaching something that you yourself are not living up to. You're preaching purity and chastity, and you're not living up to it. What would you say to that? At the very least, it's misogynistic. Oh, well, you can sleep around, but she can't. Well, that's a double standard. Sorry. And I know men and women are not equal, even notwithstanding that men and women are not equal, it's still a double standard. Because if you yourself are not living up to your truth or what you're preaching, then how could you tear somebody else down who's not living up to it? At least admit that you're not living up to it. At least own up to it and be like, yeah, I'm still sleeping around, so I'm not living up to my own standard. At least say that, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, all right. At least you admit it. You can still be objective about the truth and say, yes, I'm objective. This is the truth. However, yes, I'm not following it myself, and it's just the truth. I'm not following it myself, but it's still the truth. The truth is still the truth, whether you follow it or not. So you can still speak the truth, whether you follow it. Some people get that twisted and they think, oh, if you're not following it, you could never even speak the truth. Like, no, you could still speak the truth even if you're not following it. However, you can't put a standard, on someone else if you're not living up to that standard yourself. You can speak the truth and say this should be the standard objectively. However, I myself am not even coming up to that standard. And based on that, I can tell somebody else that they're not coming up to that standard, right? But you yourself can't diss somebody who's doing the same thing you're doing. That doesn't make sense, particularly in such a toxic way. So that's kind of just my assessment of Undead Chronic. Is he entertaining? Yes. Is he funny? Yes. Is he witty and clever? Yes. Is he making money off of this? Is that his motivation? Yes. I get it. I totally get it, right? But again, if you're preaching the Bible, which he has, if you're preaching traditional, wholesome Christian values of purity and chastity and morality, which he has and he does, which seems to be his base of his essential philosophy and core tenet to what he believes, his ideals and what life is about and what relationships should be about. If you're preaching that, and yet you yourself are not an adherent to that, you're kind of twisted, man. Yeah, it's kind of twisted and misogynistic. It's kind of like Fresh and Fit when they say, oh, you know what, it's okay for a man to cheat because he's just exercising his options, and a man should be able to cheat. This is this hypothetical world that they live in, and it's just like, no, cheating is cheating. Yes, it's easier for a woman to get laid. Yes, women cheat more often. Yes, women are out here lying and cheating. Doesn't mean it's okay for a man to do it, and vice versa. No one should cheat because marriage should be about fidelity. Marriage should be about monogamy, trust, love, right? If we're talking marriage. Now, of course, we don't live in that type of society, really. Right? We live in a porn culture. We live in a hookup culture. Let's talk about that and just be honest about it. Chronic, you are a proponent of the hookup culture. The very thing you disdain in women, you are a product of. I'm not white knighting or simping for women by saying that. That's just the truth. I'm not giving them an out. I'm not saying it's okay for them to do it either. You see my point? So, listen, I'm just speaking, This is just a critique. I get that he's a profiteer. I get where he's coming from. He feels that he's going to make millions of dollars off this in his future. That's fine. Maybe he's already made thousands. I don't know. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I don't know. YouTube is a weird animal. I don't know. That's his motivation. That's his prerogative. That's his choice. Fine. He's an entertainer. He's an influencer. I get it. But at the same time, let's not mislead others. Let's not, do a disservice to the men who are listening to us. Let's be honest and be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm not a proponent of my own values. I don't live up to my own values. Let's just be, because you know what? It's obvious. We can tell. You're literally in the same breath saying women should be virgins and pure and chaste before they get into a relationship. In the same breath, literally, you've done this, sorry, but literally you're saying, I also go out and pump and dump. Okay? So, sorry, that's just hypocritical. It just is. And it's fine. It's fine. It's fine in the sense that whatever, but at the same time, it's like there could be young guys listening to that and being like, oh yeah, it's cool for me to go out and be a man whore, but it's not okay for women. Sorry, that's misogynistic. That's not. Why is it okay for you but not women? It's the same thing, yeah. That's like saying, oh, it's cool for me to murder but not these people or something. It's weird. It's not it's an imbalanced scale, imbalanced standards, right? It's, you know, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. Anyway, bottom line is, you know, I agree with your message. I agree with your assessment of the morality of society and young women today. But does that mean men get a pass? Does that mean men, you know, that's not the Bible that I read. That's not the Bible that I've read. That's not what my Bible says. My Bible says everyone shouldn't fornicate. My Bible says marriage should be held in honor. Sorry to say. Now, whether you live up to that is between you and God. But at the same time, don't go out here preaching the Bible and preaching these values, but you yourself are not an adherent to these values. Doesn't make sense, man. Doesn't make sense. That's all I'm saying. You know, and that's one of my biggest critiques and problems with a lot of the guys in the manosphere, you know, aside from maybe Rollo Tomasi, because he's genuinely been married and he really takes a different angle. I've never really heard him preach any hypocrisy, but I have heard Donovan Sharp preach some of this hypocrisy, Chronic, Fresh and Fit, maybe some others. So that's hypocritical to me. All right, and more power to the guy. He's very clever, very smart, knows what he's doing, knows marketing, knows his audience. Get it. I totally get it, and it's fine. That's your niche. That's your deal. Cool. You're entertaining. There may be a necessity to call out these women's bad behavior. Fine, but you know, it's a little toxic. It's a little hypocritical. It's a little too much. I wouldn't say a little too much. It's a lot too much, in the sense that I can't even listen to your stuff for very long because it's just too toxic. It's like you're too negative. And it's, I get it, but you're slipping into that territory where, like, yeah, you're really affected by this. As red pill and MGTOW men, I remember, you know, where has our values gone? We used to be, well, you know, we need to build ourselves up and live a quality life, not just sit around bash women 24/7. Some of it's in order. Some of it's necessary. You know, we need to call a spade a spade. Women need to be called out to a certain degree. But if that's your whole MO, 24/7, you're breathing, living this vitriol, right? Constant toxicity, right? I call it out, and I try to be level-headed about it. I try not to let it take me and usurp me in its, you know, there's power in hatred. There's anger in hatred. There's a consumingness to it that consumes you. Yeah, you might have been wronged, but if you're so full of anger and hatred that you yourself are not living a quality life, you yourself are not happy on the inside, and it's all about money. Okay, so you're using that vitriol to just make money. I don't know, man. Maybe it's working. But then are you any better than John Anthony, who's using his fraudulent lies to make money? Who's using his exploiting these simps from their money with this fake concept that you're one of the greatest game guys ever, which is just total nonsense, right? I mean, is it that much better? It's different, but is it that much better? You're using the red pill anger to get a career. I get it, man. Capitalism, right? I get it. But is that not greedy? Is that not, you know, maybe not. Maybe you don't see that as greedy, which is fine. But at the same time, like, you have to admit, you are using that, you know, anger momentum, hatred momentum. There's a difference between, like I said when I started this out, there's a difference between calling something out and then calling something out in a negative, hateful, tearing down way. Hopefully they would change. Hopefully we could call them out and they would repent or turn, and maybe, you know, they could salvage some kind of relationship, right? But I agree, for the most part, yeah, if she's past a 10-notch leg count, 50-notch leg count, 100-notch leg count, the more and more damage she gets, I agree. But should we just throw them away? You know, throw these women into the sea or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's your attitude in every video, every time you talk on your call outs. It's, I mean, I get it, I get it, but what, right? But what? Are they just gonna die? Are they gonna be suffer in hell for eternity? It's kind of what, you know what I mean? Like these Catholics who are like, the gays are gonna suffer in hell. Well, like, maybe was that Jesus's heart? Was that Jesus's heart? Or was Jesus like, I came to die for everyone. Everyone can be saved. That was Jesus's heart. And definitely, believe me, I've been there. You're so hurt by a woman, and so many women have done you wrong, where it's just like, oh man, I hope they get karma, this, that, and the third. And probably they will, right? But should they die? Should they be, maybe they'll feel exactly how they made you feel. I don't know. Because yes, we've been made to feel very low and very crappy, and I understand that. Believe me, believe you me, I've been there. Believe you me, I've been there for many years. Many years I was there. But I try to, not saying I'm better per se. I still can get there, but I understand that. Hey, I have a life to live, man. I can't sit around and wallow in my pity, wallow in hatred, wallow in vitriol. Yeah, somebody did me wrong, but I got to move on. I got to live my life. But yeah, if you have this issue, if you're going to make money off it, now it's your career, which is, hopefully you grow from that, because I listen to your stuff now and I'm just like, damn, dude, you're pretty wrapped up in this, and you said some pretty extreme stuff, man. It's like, we need God to save us from being too extreme. We need God to save us to live a better life, to live a healthy, happy, emotional life, and a healthy, happy mental life and spiritual life. And it starts from the spirit. So that's just my 2 cents on Undead Chronic. Again, this is not a critique this is not it is a critique, but it's not a critique in the sense that I believe that he'll change or anything like that. I'm just putting it out there. These are some of my problems with the red pill. It was popular, 7 years ago, very popular, from 2012, 2016, 17. But if it gets too misogynistic, if it gets too vitriolic, if it gets too full of hate and anger, at that point it's no longer constructive. The truth sets people free. However, how do we react to somebody doing us wrong, right? How do we react to pain? Somebody causes us a lot of pain. Well, maybe that person will get karma, but at the same time, like, why not cure the symptom behind it as opposed to just hurting that person? There's a symptom behind it. There's a matrix, a society that uplifts this kind of, immorality, that says it's okay, that, encourages it. We should strive to kind of take care of that as opposed to wanting to harm, the people who, or I wouldn't say harm, but wanting to, really your attitude and your behavior is almost like, you don't care if, it's just like when you disregard a human being so much that you it's almost like you don't care if they die, or you would be happy if they die. It seems like that, man. So, and I understand that, and it's pain, and I'd rather just tell the truth as opposed to, say, hey, this is female behavior. This is the way they're behaving, and this needs to stop. This is what, they need better parents. Society needs checks and balances. Woo, 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 right? That's better than, oh, look at this thought. Oh, look at this, worthless. Oh, just a zinc, garbage can. Maybe. I mean, I guess you could say that, constructive criticism in a way. Maybe they hear you. They might be like, oh, he's right somehow. I mean, it might change some women, maybe, but you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. At any rate, man, I don't think that's Jesus When he comes back, that's going to be Jesus. When he comes back, he's coming back with a sword. He's coming back to judge the evil. And Jesus is going to do it, right? We're not sitting here judging now, per se. We need to judge ourselves now. And so it's a complex thing. Like, yes, there will be judgment. And yes, maybe there'll be karma and consequences for their actions, in that time. But I don't believe that it's going to be us, per se, who's going to do that. And I don't believe that cursing them out and calling them out in such a way that, I don't think that's going to necessarily change them. Maybe it's the blunt truth. Maybe they need the blunt truth because nobody's telling them the blunt truth. But I don't know, man. It's debatable. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Just wanted to talk about it. And, at the end of the day, it is pretty hypocritical to say, hey, you're wrong for being immoral, yet I'm immoral myself. Because they're not going to respect that. I can tell you that much. They're not going to respect that. If you're saying, oh yeah, I'm at the bar and I'm going to zinc in this girl, or oh yeah, I'm going to, I'd sleep with you, but I would never date you. That's pretty hypocritical, because it's like you have double standards. You have one standard for women and another standard for yourself. And as white knightish as that sounds, I believe it's the truth. I really do. I'm not saying we need to coddle women in their bad behavior, because that would be that would be white knightish. I'm not saying we need to defend their behavior, because that's phony. And the only reason white knights do that is because they want to get some, because they benefit from women being promiscuous. No, we can tell the truth. Promiscuity is wrong. It damages relationships. It damages society. But are we going to be any better ourselves? Right? And I'm not saying I am per se either myself, but I can call a spade a spade. Hey, how can we sit here and judge them if we ourselves are not the same? But again, like I said, you can be objective and still tell the truth, even though you're not fully up to the truth. But it's pretty blatant, when you're sitting there tearing them down so much that, hey, right? You're tearing them down so much that you're calling them these names and totally disregarding everything about them, but yet you yourself do the same thing they do. Like, at least just talk about the behavior and be like, this isn't right. Maybe I'm not right, but at least I can say this isn't right and just be humble about it. But I understand that doesn't get clicks and likes, and that doesn't sell. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Appreciate you guys listening. Maybe there's some more clarity to this kind of concept, and I just hate to see red pill go in such a way where we turn into these seemingly hateful type of people. That was never what the red pill was to me. And you can call somebody out and still be classy. Sandman does it, right? Rollo Tomasi does it, right? Richard Cooper does it. And you may have your critiques with these guys, but they're at least they haven't lowered themselves to name calling, and it's pretty low. And I get that there's a market for that. I get it, right? I get you're making money off it, but anyway, the red pill should be more classy than that. Just my opinion. But anyway, appreciate you guys listening. Jay Lee, Northwest Podcast. Peace.